was thinking this week about how good it is when you can go to a group of people, or sometimes it's a place where you're welcomed and loved, and people are excited to see you. Um, I remember walking through the living room when I was growing up, and my dad would watch this show, Cheers. Um, and you're probably familiar with the song. The most popular line from that song is "Where everybody knows your name, that's where you want to go." Um, and I think it is more closely tied to a group of people rather than a place, a group of people that love you and care about you. But I thought we would start off our discussion this morning with a question about exactly how those people make life a little bit easier, a little bit better for you. How do your people make your life a little easier? What do they do? It strikes me that most of the responses to this question have been around just very simple presence, about listening and making eye contact and being together. It really does make a difference in people's lives when there are people around that care. I'm intending to wrap up this little mini series I've been doing about looking at the physical image of the cross as a means by which we can understand how we relate to God with that smaller upper portion there, how we relate to ourselves, which is the largest piece of the cross, and then wrapping up today with how we spread our arms open and express love to other people. I hope this is a helpful image, something that sticks in your mind as a way to capture how we can live out love with God, with others, and with ourselves. But with that in mind, today's topic is about caring, which I didn't really prompt you for that, but you've all spoken about how the people that make a difference in your life care about you, and it is one of the most impactful ways that we can live out love with each other every day. And this is going to get a little bit maybe more intense than you anticipated, since we're talking about caring. But the first thing in looking at this subject in the Bible, the first thing that comes out in my study about caring is that we are called to live out our values. Now, before I go on, it's going to get a little bit political. Sometimes our political affiliation might maybe get in the way a little bit of our Jesus affiliation. And at least for me, and I believe for you, that affiliation with God is greater than our political affiliation. With all of that said, if what I'm about to say gets under your skin a little bit, that's not my intention. I just wanted to share something that occurred with me this week, and maybe it would resonate with you also. But I was scrolling through YouTube on my lunch break, and I ran across this video, and the title of it was very clickbaity. It said, liberal hypocrisy is fueling American inequality. Here's how. It was an opinion piece, and you might notice it's from the New York Times, which is not often known for lambasting a liberal point of view. And so I was intrigued, and I wanted to watch this thing, so I did. I watched it, and basically the opinion piece here didn't have very much good to say about either political party, but the part where he had the most issue was for the Democratic platform. They say they want to do a lot of things to help underprivileged people. And yet when it comes down to actually putting into practice, as far as taxes, as far as affordable housing, as far as healthcare and childcare, it often doesn't get done. And what this opinion piece author was saying is, we kind of need to do the things we say we're going to do. We need to live out our beliefs. And that's the hardest thing to do. And that resonates with me also when I think about following Jesus, when I think about maybe the most challenging thing he ever said, love your enemies. I can talk about that a lot, about how we should be loving our enemies, and it'll change the world. And then when I get in a situation where I'm toe to toe with somebody who's angry with me or disappointed in me or whatever, it's a lot harder to love your enemies in those moments. And I stumbled upon this verse, which is probably familiar to you. Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. It says, "Let each of you look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others." And it reminded me of the few times I've been privileged enough to fly in a plane. And, they talk about if there's an event where the oxygen comes on, the mask's going to drop down in front of you, and you need to put your own mask on first. And then you help the person next to you get their mask on, if it's a kid or somebody that can't figure it out, whatever it is. But this verse reminded me of that. I think often we talk about how it's selfish to look after your own interests, but that's not what this verse indicates. This verse says we should look after our own interests and also the interests of other people. It's not that we're completely self-sacrificing to the point of our own demise. It's that we don't just look after ourselves. We look after other people as well. And that's what everybody here this morning was talking about. When you interact with your people, they're not out for themselves. They also care about you as well, in addition to caring about themselves, which all of us do. It's a very good thing to do. And so one of the ways I think we can live this out is to express interest in people over time. I've seen this in Amy as she's waited tables in the past, and she amazes people because if she has a return guest, she remembers what they talked about last time and will ask them about that. Hey, I know last time you were in getting your daughter off to college. How is she doing? And it's just amazing. People are like a little bit spooked, a little bit freaked out that she remembers details of their lives. But I think that's what genuine care and concern looks like. It's not that we pretend to be interested one time, but that we actually are interested in the other person. Not just one time or two times, but over weeks and months and years. We genuinely have interest and we express that interest in the other person. And that's a powerful way to live out this idea of caring for another person, of living out love, is to express interest in people over time. We are called to live out our values by caring for ourselves and for other people. The next area that popped out in looking at this idea of living out love by means of caring is to respond compassionately. I was talking with a coworker this week. She has a mutual admiration for religion. She happens to be Catholic. And so we were talking about, she converted to Catholicism as an adult. And she was talking about studying world religions. And she said that we're a lot more alike than we often draw lines between each other, but we often have very similar values. And I said, yeah, it actually reminds me of how we view other people of other races, other skin colors. We draw lines between each other, and I think we're more alike than we think we are. And she was saying, yeah, like in thinking about Islam, I know several Islamic people, Muslim people, and they're loving, compassionate people. And I've looked at what their basic tenets are, and they're all things that I agree with as a Catholic. I said, yeah, we're a lot more similar. And so often change in thinking about people of other religions or other races happens over time. And we might still hold these divisions in our minds, but when we get to know someone that's different from us, maybe a different religion or a different skin color, we might still think, oh, well, those people are different, except for my friend. My friend is different. I really love my friend. It puts us, when we get to know someone, when we get to care about someone, it puts us in a mindset where we can open up with compassion and overlook our differences and instead see the ways that we're the same. In Matthew chapter 25, verse 40, Jesus is telling a parable about the end of time, and everybody's brought before the throne and their lives are judged. And the means by which they are judged is this. The king says to the people being judged, "Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my sisters and brothers, you did it to me." Jesus is saying in this parable that ultimately what it all comes down to, whether you'll be judged as right or wrong, comes down to if you express care and compassion for the person in front of you. That's how you express care and compassion for God. That's how you love Jesus, is by loving the person in front of you. And that's really hard to do. Like I was talking about earlier, it's It's a lot easier to draw divisions and to see the angry person in front of you instead of to see Jesus or to see someone that you care about. And so I talked about this previously, but one of the ways that I attempt to live this out is to imagine everyone that I interact with as someone that I favor. For me personally, it's to imagine everyone as like a 5 or 6-year-old kid, maybe in a grown-up's body, that we're all trying to figure this out. We're not very good at it. We're all still learning, and we all make mistakes. If I can view every single person in front of me as a kid just doing the best they can and still in the process of learning, I find myself, it's much easier to respond with compassion, to forgive, to show empathy when maybe they unexpectedly hurt me or say something not quite right. Whether this looks like for you, imagining everybody is the person of Jesus standing in front of you, whether it's seeing God in the eyes of whoever you're talking to, whatever it is, this is a very practical way that we can respond with a bit more compassion, is to imagine everyone as someone that we favor. We really can respond compassionately and treat everyone as someone that we favor. That I think is maybe the most practical way we can show love, we can care for the person in front of us. And finally, in looking at how we show care to the person in front of us, it's to roll up your sleeves. I don't know about you, but when I get home from all my daily responsibilities, the chair is often very inviting, and I don't really want to get out of it and spend more time connecting with people or doing something active. And I was reminded of this clever quote: "Don't just sit there, do something." For the times that I do manage to motivate myself to get out of the chair after dinner and do something to interact with people, those are the times that are worth remembering. Those are the times that are the most rewarding. And I find that if I do get out of the chair and do something, I'm actually less tired than I was before I sat down. You know what I mean? Like when you do something with another person, when you show them care or concern or just get out and be active with them, it energizes you in ways that don't make much biological sense to me, but it's true. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 2, it says this: "Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ." And I think about two people, maybe they're tired or wounded, and they're walking with each other, propping each other up. That's the image I have when I read this verse, to bear one another's burdens. It's interesting in context. This is the last chapter of Galatians, and it's in the part where Paul often just gives rapid fire instructions on what to do. And he's talking about, immediately before this, he's talking about needing to forgive other people. And then he jumps into this. Oftentimes, the way we can bear one another's burdens, it's actually the person's attitude or behaviors or misunderstanding that is the burden to bear. It's the relationship with the other person. And we can bear that in addition to helping them, carry boxes out when they move or sharing a meal together. It does take energy to be in relationships with people. It takes work. And so if you're looking for the easy way out, I got nothing to tell you, because we're called as followers of Jesus to roll up our sleeves and get down to it with other people. There's lots of practical ways that you can find to do this. You can forgive people, you can empower them, you can make their life a little bit easier, as we talked about before. And I was reminded of, I don't know if many of you have done a faith fall or a trust fall, perhaps at a youth camp or something, but what it is you stick your arms out across a line of your peers and somebody falls on it, just back straight, they lean back and fall right on it. And you're not even holding hands with the person across from you, but because you're all working together, you can hold that other person up. It's really amazing. And there's a lot of encouragement that needs to go on, not just for the person that's about to fall back on you, but also for the person across from you. If they feel like they can't do it, if they wimp out or decide this is too difficult, I'm going to drop them, they probably will. And so it takes a lot of encouragement just for the person across from you to be able to hold each other up, to hold each other together. And that's a good picture for life. Oftentimes it's not the other person that needs the most support. that can use the most encouragement. So I would encourage you, even in the relationships that you feel like might be strong, or maybe even the people that are helping you along, to encourage them, to empower them, to forgive them when there's misunderstandings, and keep the relationship strong. Roll up your sleeves and make life a little bit better for all of the people that you encounter. So in talking about practically living out this idea of caring for other people, these are 3 ways that we can attempt to do this well together. We can express interest in other people over time. We can imagine everyone as someone that you favor, and you can very practically forgive them, empower them, make life a little bit easier on them. It makes a world of difference. So this is this little series of looking at the cross as an image of how we can live out love every day in relationship to God. Just taking the approach of thanking. If we only had one prayer, thank you would be enough. In looking at living out love with ourselves, I think we can live with the expectation that we will grow and change. And the person we were last year or 5 or 10 years ago is probably not who we are now. And it's not who we'll be next year or 5 or 10 years down the road. And finally, looking at the arms of the cross spreading out to show love to others. I think the 2 most practical ways we do that are in communing, in creating community with other people, inviting them in, making sure they know they belong, and caring for those same people in very practical ways, being present, listening, making eye contact, giving hugs. It's the little things that show we care. So may you make sure to take care of yourself and others. May you see everyone as someone you favor and care about. May you find practical ways to make this scary life a little easier on people. And may they know we follow Jesus by how much we care.